Commander Taman stared at the data screen in his office. The numbers made no sense. For 3 weeks, reports had been coming in from the Outer Rim worlds about a new species. They called themselves humans. Every report said the same strange things. These humans were different from every other species the Federation had ever met. Timon had spent 40 years studying alien military patterns. When a new species got faster than light travel, they always did the same things. They either tried to take over other worlds, steal resources, or start trading for profit. It was simple. It was predictable. It was how the galaxy worked. But humans were not following any of these patterns. The door to his office opened. Captain Heejin walked in carrying a thick folder of reports. Her blue skin showed the stress marks that appeared when Zephyrians were confused. Taman had never seen her look this puzzled before. "Sir, I have the latest reports from the border worlds," she said, setting the folder on his desk. "You need to read these." Taman opened the first report. It was from Station Kepler 7, a mining outpost near human space. The station commander wrote that 3 human ships had arrived last week. Instead of demanding tribute or threatening attack, they had offered medical supplies. Free medical supplies. They asked for nothing in return. The second report was even stranger. On the planet Vega Prime, human ships had found a plague outbreak. The humans immediately sent doctors and medicine. They worked for 2 weeks to help cure the sick. When the planetary governor tried to pay them, the humans refused all payment. They just left. "This makes no sense," Taman said, reading the third report. "According to this, human ships ask permission before entering any star system." "They actually ask permission?" Hyejin nodded. "Every report says the same thing. They follow something they call protocols. They have rules about everything. Rules about how to approach other ships. Rules about when they can use weapons. Rules about helping sick people." Taman leaned back in his chair. In all his years of military service, he had never heard of a species that limited itself with so many rules. Rules were things you forced on your enemies, not on yourself. "What does intelligence think about their military strength?" he asked. "That's the really strange part," Heejin said. She pulled out another file. "Their ships have weapons, but they never use them unless they are attacked first. Even then, they only use enough force to stop the threat. Our analysts think they might be weak or cowardly." Taman read the tactical analysis. Human ships carried powerful weapons, but the report showed they always tried to talk before fighting. When they did fight, they seemed to hold back. They disabled enemy ships instead of destroying them. They captured pirates instead of killing them. "Maybe they are just not very good at war," Taman thought out loud. His computer beeped with an incoming message. It was from Dr. Su Jin, the Federation's top expert on alien psychology. She wanted to meet with him immediately. An hour later, Dr. Su Jin sat across from Taman in the briefing room. Her forearms moved quickly as she sorted through data pads. As a member of the Valdorian species, she could process information much faster than most other beings. "Commander, I have been studying these humans for weeks," she said. "I think we are making a big mistake about them." "What kind of mistake?" Dr. Su Jin activated the hologram projector. Images of human documents appeared in the air. The text was in human writing, but the computer had translated it. "They have something called rules of engagement," she explained. "These are laws they follow during war. But these laws are very strange. They say humans cannot attack hospitals. They cannot hurt prisoners. They must help wounded enemies. They must protect civilians even if those civilians belong to their enemies." Taman studied the floating text. "These rules make no sense. Why would anyone help their enemies?" "That's not all," Dr. Su Jin continued. She brought up another document. "They have something called the Geneva Conventions. These are laws about how to treat people during war. According to this, humans think there are right ways and wrong ways to fight." Right ways to fight. Taman had never heard such a thing. War was about winning. You used whatever methods worked best. "Look at this section." Dr. Su Jin pointed to part of the text. "It says that even during war, humans must treat prisoners well. They must give them food, medical care, and safe places to sleep. They cannot torture them or kill them." Taman felt confused. "But why would they waste resources on prisoners? Prisoners are just mouths to feed." "I don't know," Dr. Su Jin admitted. "Nothing in our database explains this behavior. No species has ever created laws to limit their own military power. It goes against all survival instincts." The room was quiet for a moment. Taman tried to understand what he was learning. These humans had rules that made them weaker in war. They had laws that helped their enemies. They spent time and resources protecting people who were not even their own species. Dr. Sujin, in your professional opinion, are these humans dangerous to the Federation? She thought for a long moment. I don't think they are dangerous in the way we usually think about danger. They don't seem to want to conquer anyone. They don't steal resources. They don't threaten other species. Then what do they want? I think they just want to explore and help others. But Commander, that might make them more dangerous than any enemy we have ever faced. Before Tamian could ask what she meant, his communication device buzzed. It was a message from Federation High Command. He read it quickly, then looked up at Dr. Sujin and Captain Hyejin. I've been given a new assignment, he said. High Command wants me to take a fleet into human space and observe their military operations firsthand. They want to know if these humans are a threat to Federation security. Hyejin looked worried. Sir, what if the humans see our ships as hostile? Tamian smiled. According to all these reports, they will probably invite us to have dinner with them. 3 days later, Tamian stood on the bridge of the Federation battleship, Swift Victory. His fleet of 12 ships was heading toward human space. The mission seemed simple. Watch the humans, learn about their military capabilities, and report back to High Command. As they approached the border of human territory, Tamian felt confident. He had spent his whole career studying military threats. These humans with their strange rules and helpful nature seemed like the least threatening species he had ever encountered. He had no idea how wrong he was about to be. Admiral Boram watched the long-range sensors as 12 Federation ships moved through space toward human territory. She commanded the observation fleet from her flagship, the Eternal Watch. Her job was to study these strange humans without being detected, but the humans had already found them. Admiral, called Lieutenant Yunha from the communication station. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. They're speaking our language, Boram frowned. How do they know our language? We've only made contact with them 3 weeks ago. Unknown, sir. But the message is very polite. They're inviting us to observe their operations openly. They say they have nothing to hide. This was not what Boram expected. When the Federation studied other species, they did it secretly. No one invited their enemies to watch their military exercises. Put the message on the main screen, she ordered. The face of a human appeared on the bridge display. He looked young for a commander with dark hair and eyes. The universal translator identified him as Commander Jinwoo of the Terran Space Navy. Greetings, Admiral Boram of the Federation Fleet Eternal Watch, the human said with a smile. We detected your ships an hour ago. We know you are here to study us. We welcome this chance to meet new friends. Would you like to join our patrol? We can learn about each other. Boram felt shocked. Not only had the humans detected her supposedly invisible ships, but they knew her name and her ship's name. Their technology was much better than Federation intelligence had suggested. How should we respond, Admiral? Asked her tactical officer. Boram thought carefully. The humans seemed friendly, but this could be a trap. However, refusing might make them suspicious. Tell them we accept their invitation, she decided. For the next 3 days, the Federation fleet followed the human patrol ships through their territory. Commander Jinwoo was very open about everything. He showed them human star charts, explained their patrol routes, and even gave them tours of human ships. What Boram saw during those 3 days changed everything she thought she knew about warfare. The first surprise came when the human ships received a distress call. A mining colony in the Krillian system was under attack by raiders. The Federation had never heard of the Krillians before. They were not members of any known alliance. Boram expected the humans to ignore the call. Why risk their ships for unknown aliens? But Commander Jinwoo immediately changed course toward the Krillian system. Commander, Boram called over the communication link. These Krillians are not your allies. Why are you helping them? Jinwoo looked confused by the question. They sent a distress call. People are in danger. We have to help. But you gain nothing from helping them. We gain the knowledge that we did the right thing, Jinwoo replied. That is enough. Boram did not understand this answer, but she ordered her ships to follow and observe. When they reached the Krillian system, they found chaos. 20 raider ships were attacking a small mining colony. The colony had no defenses. Hundreds of civilians were trapped on the planet's surface. Commander Jinwoo's fleet had only 8 ships. The raiders had 20. In normal military thinking, Jinwoo should retreat and call for help. Instead, He broadcast a message to both the raiders and the colony. "This is Commander Jin Woo of the Terran Space Navy. We are here to protect the civilians in this system. Raiders, you have one chance to leave peacefully. If you do not leave, we will stop you." Lieutenant Yunha ran quick calculations on her computer. "Admiral, the human ships are outgunned 3-1. They cannot win this fight." But the humans did not seem worried. Their ships moved into formation with careful precision. Boram noticed something strange about their weapons. The energy readings were much higher than expected. These ships were far more powerful than they appeared. The raider leader responded to Jin Woo's message with insults and threats. The raiders began attacking the human ships. What happened next amazed everyone on the Federation bridge. The human ships fought like nothing Boram had ever seen. They were fast, precise, and deadly, but they were also careful. Instead of destroying the raider ships, they disabled them. They targeted engines and weapons, leaving the crew compartments intact. "Why aren't they destroying the enemy ships?" Yunha asked. "They could end this fight quickly." Boram watched as human fighters danced around the clumsy raider vessels. The humans could have won the battle in minutes if they used their full firepower. Instead, they seemed to be trying to capture the raiders alive. The battle lasted 2 hours. When it ended, 18 raider ships were disabled and drifting in space. 2 raider ships had been destroyed, but only after their crews refused multiple chances to surrender. Then came the biggest shock of all. Commander Jin Woo ordered his medical ships to help the wounded raiders. Human doctors worked to save the lives of people who had been trying to kill them just hours before. "This is madness," whispered Yunha. "They're helping their enemies." Boram called Jin Woo directly. "Commander, why are you treating the raiders?" "They are your prisoners now." Jin Woo looked surprised by the question. "They are wounded. Our laws require us to help all wounded people, even our enemies. It is called the Geneva Convention. But they tried to kill you." "Yes, but the fighting is over now. Now they are just people who need medical help." Boram felt confused and frustrated. "What will you do with the raiders after you heal them?" "We will turn them over to the proper authorities for trial. They will be treated fairly according to galactic law. You could just execute them. It would be simpler." Jin Woo looked shocked. "Execute prisoners? That would be a war crime. We do not kill helpless people." After the raider situation was resolved, the human fleet helped repair the Krillian colony. They shared their medical supplies and gave technical assistance. When the grateful Krillians offered to pay for the help, Jin Woo politely refused. "We do not charge people for helping them," he explained. "It is our duty to protect those who cannot protect themselves." That night, Boram met with her senior officers to discuss what they had witnessed. "The humans are not what we expected," said her weapons officer. "Their ships are much more powerful than our intelligence suggested. They could have destroyed those raiders easily, but they chose not to," added Yunha. "They risked their own lives to capture the enemies instead of killing them." "I have never seen anything like it." Boram nodded slowly. "Their behavior makes no tactical sense. They waste time and resources on enemies and strangers. They follow rules that make them weaker." "Admiral," said her science officer, "what if the rules don't make them weaker? What if we don't understand what makes them strong?" Boram thought about this. The humans had won the battle against superior numbers. They had saved hundreds of civilian lives. They had captured most of their enemies alive. And they had done it all while following their strange rules. "Send a detailed report to Federation Command," she ordered. "Tell them the humans are not what they appear to be. We need to study them more carefully." Over the next few days, Boram watched Commander Jin Woo and his crew. She saw them help stranded travelers, share their food with hungry refugees, and protect transport ships from pirates. The humans seemed to spend most of their time helping others, but she also noticed how other species reacted to the humans. Everywhere they went, people were happy to see them. Traders felt safe when human ships were nearby. Colonies requested human patrols. Even former enemies seemed to trust them. "Lieutenant Nha," Boram said one evening, "run a simulation. What would happen if our fleet fought against Commander Jinwoo's ships?" Yunha worked on her computer for several minutes. When she finished, her face was pale. "Admiral, according to the simulation, we would lose. Their ships are much more advanced than ours. And they fight as a perfect team? How is that possible? They seem so peaceful." "I think that's exactly why they're so dangerous," Yunha replied. "They don't fight for conquest or revenge. They fight to protect others. That makes them much more motivated than normal soldiers." Boram realized she was beginning to understand something important about these humans. They were not weak because of their rules. Their rules made them something entirely different from any species the Federation had ever encountered. Something much more dangerous than a normal enemy. Something that could change the entire galaxy. General Kyung-ho read Admiral Boram's reports with growing irritation. The humans sounded too good to be true. No species was that helpful and peaceful. He had commanded Federation forces for 50 years, and he knew that every species fought for their own interest first. These reports are exaggerated, he told his staff during the morning briefing. Boram is being fooled by human propaganda. No military force wastes resources helping strangers. But 3 days later, everything changed. The attack came without warning. Hegemony of Vorth warships dropped out of hyperspace above the Bendari system like angry hornets. The Bendari were a peaceful species that had declared neutrality in the war between the Federation and the Hegemony. Their system had 3 inhabited planets and several space stations. It also had a small human colony on Bendari 3 Captain. So Young of the human vessel Incheon was delivering medical supplies to the colony when the Hegemony fleet arrived. Her ship was alone in the system. The nearest Federation fleet was 6 hours away. General Kyung-ho watched the battle unfold from the Federation Command Center on Rigel Base. Long-range sensors showed 47 Hegemony warships against 1 human vessel. The smart thing for Captain So-young to do was run away as fast as possible. She did not run. Instead, Captain So-young broadcast a message on all frequencies. The communication officers at Rigel Base recorded every word. This is Captain So-young of the Terran vessel Incheon. To all ships in the Bendari system, I am declaring this system under humanitarian protection, according to the Terran rules of engagement. All military forces are required to allow civilian evacuation before beginning combat operations. General Kyung-ho laughed. 1 ship against 47? This human captain has lost her mind. But then something unexpected happened. The Hegemony fleet stopped attacking the civilian targets war leader Dae-hyun commanded. The Hegemony fleet from his flagship Blood of Conquest. He was a Vorthak who had defected from the Hegemony years ago and joined the human military. Now he had returned to lead Hegemony forces, but he still remembered human tactics. All ships cease fire on civilian targets. Dae-hyun ordered his fleet. Allow evacuation ships to leave the system safely. His own officers looked confused. War leader, why are we listening to 1 human ship? We could destroy it easily. Because, Dae-hyun replied, if we ignore human rules of engagement, they will destroy us all. General Kyung-ho did not understand what was happening. Why would a Hegemony commander follow human orders? The Hegemony was known for their brutal attacks on civilians. The answer came when Captain So-young transmitted her ship's full tactical capabilities to both the Hegemony and Federation forces. She showed them exactly what weapons her ship carried, how fast it could move, and what damage it could do. I am informing all combatants of my vessel's capabilities in the interest of preventing unnecessary casualties, she announced. I will defend all civilian populations in this system. I will use minimum necessary force against military targets that threaten non-combatants. General Kyung-ho studied the data from So-young's transmission. His tactical computers analyzed her ship's capabilities and came to a shocking conclusion. The Incheon was not just a medical supply ship. It was one of the most advanced warships anyone had ever seen. Sir, called his intelligence officer. According to this data, the human ship could destroy our entire fleet. Why is she telling us how powerful she is? Before General Kyung-ho could answer, Admiral Gi-jun arrived at the command center. He was the Federation's most experienced fleet commander, known for his aggressive tactics and hatred of the Hegemony. This is perfect, Gi-jun said, studying the tactical display. The Hegemony is distracted by this human nonsense about protecting civilians. We can hit them while they're not paying attention. Admiral, the human captain specifically asked both sides to allow civilian evacuation first. I don't care what the human wants, Gi-jun snapped. This is our chance to inflict serious damage on the Hegemony fleet. Order our ships to attack immediately. General Kyung-ho felt uncomfortable with this plan, but Admiral Gi-jun outranked him. Sir, what about the civilians still in the system? Acceptable losses, Gi-jun replied coldly. War requires sacrifice. The Federation fleet jumped into the Bendari system with weapons charged and ready. Admiral Gi-jun planned to attack the Hegemony ships while they were focused on the human vessel. What happened next shocked everyone. Captain So Young detected the incoming Federation fleet and immediately moved her ship between the Federation forces and the civilian evacuation ships. She broadcast another message. Federation fleet, you are targeting civilian vessels. Stand down immediately or I will consider you a hostile force. Admiral Gi-jun laughed. One ship threatening an entire fleet? This human is insane. All ships, ignore the human vessel and attack the hegemony. The Federation ships opened fire on the hegemony fleet. Some of their shots missed and hit civilian transports. Captain So Young did exactly what she had promised. The human ship moved faster than anything General Kyung-ho had ever seen. It intercepted Federation missiles before they could hit civilian targets. It disabled Federation ships that continued to fire near evacuation vessels. And it did all of this while simultaneously fighting hegemony ships that threatened the civilian convoy. How is this possible? Whispered the intelligence officer. She's fighting both fleets at the same time. But Captain So Young was not really fighting both fleets. She was controlling the entire battle. Every time a Federation or hegemony ship fired at civilians, she disabled it. Every time someone followed her rules about protecting non-combatants, she left them alone. War leader Dae-hyun understood what was happening first. He had learned human tactics during his time with their military. He ordered his ships to stop targeting civilian areas completely and focus only on military targets. Admiral Gi-jun was furious. Why aren't we winning? We outnumber the humans 100-1. Because, sir, said the tactical officer quietly, we're not really fighting the humans. We're fighting their rules, and their rules are winning. The battle continued for 6 hours. When it ended, something amazing had happened. Despite having 3 different fleets in combat, civilian casualties were almost zero. Captain So Young had managed to create a combat environment where both sides had to follow her rules or face immediate retaliation. More importantly, she had done something that no military commander in galactic history had ever accomplished. She had forced 2 enemy fleets to cooperate in protecting civilians while they fought each other. Sir, reported the communications officer, we're receiving a message from war leader Dae-hyun. General Kyung-ho read the message with amazement. The hegemony commander was proposing a temporary ceasefire to allow complete civilian evacuation. He suggested that both fleets follow human rules of engagement for the remainder of the battle. Admiral Gi-jun was outraged. This is ridiculous. We don't follow alien rules. But General Kyung-ho was beginning to understand something important. The human rules were not just about being nice to civilians. They were about controlling the battlefield. Captain So Young had not won the battle through superior firepower. She had won by creating rules that everyone had to follow. Admiral, he said carefully, perhaps we should consider the hegemony proposal. Never. We are Federation military. We don't negotiate with enemies. But sir, look at the results, the tactical officer interjected. Civilian casualties are down 94% compared to normal fleet engagements. Our own ship losses are also much lower. The human rules seem to make combat more efficient, not less. General Kyung-ho studied the battle reports carefully. The officer was right. Despite the chaotic 3-way battle, both the Federation and hegemony fleets had suffered fewer casualties than normal. The humans had somehow created a way to fight that protected everyone involved. As the last civilian transport left the Bendari system safely, Captain So Young sent one final message. Thank you to all commanders for your cooperation in protecting innocent lives. The Bendari system is now clear of non-combatants. Military forces may resume normal combat operations. However, I strongly recommend continued adherence to rules of engagement for the safety and honor of all involved. With that message, the human ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the Federation and hegemony fleets staring at each other across empty space. For the first time in decades, neither side immediately resumed fighting. General Kyung-ho realized that something fundamental had changed in the way war worked. The humans had not just participated in the battle. They had redefined what battle meant, and somehow everyone was better off because of it. Professor Min-seo had always believed she understood warfare. As the Federation's top military historian, she had studied every major battle in galactic history. She knew how civilizations fought, why they fought, and what made them win or lose. The Bendari incident changed everything she thought she knew. Federation High Command had ordered her to study human military doctrine. They wanted to understand how one ship had controlled a battle between two major fleets. They wanted to know if the humans were a threat to Federation security. Professor Min Seo began her research expecting to find simple answers. She found something much more complicated. Dr. Jae-hun, she said to the human military attaché sitting across from her desk, I need to understand your rules of engagement. My government thinks they are a sign of weakness. Dr. Jae-hun was a quiet man with kind eyes. He had volunteered to help with the Federation's research into human military culture. Professor, may I ask you a question first? Of course. In Federation military history, what happens to civilizations that practice unlimited warfare? Professor Min Seo thought about this. They usually destroy themselves eventually. Total war leads to total destruction. Exactly, Dr. Jae-hun nodded. Humans discovered this truth about 3,000 years ago. We nearly destroyed our own planet several times before we learned to limit ourselves. But limiting yourself makes you weaker in battle. Does it? Dr. Jae-hun pulled out a data pad showing human military records. Look at our success rate in converting enemies into allies. Look at how many worlds request our protection. Look at how many former enemy soldiers join our military after we capture them. Professor Min Seo studied the numbers. They were remarkable. In every major conflict, humans managed to turn significant numbers of their enemies into allies. Their prisoner of war camps had volunteer rates of over 60%. Former enemy worlds often requested to join human territory. How is this possible? She asked. Because we treat our enemies better than most species treat their friends, Dr. Jae-hun explained. When you show mercy to someone who expects death, when you heal someone who tried to kill you, when you feed someone who hates you, it changes them. It changes how they think about you and about themselves. Over the next several weeks, Professor Min Seo dove deep into human military history. What she found amazed and terrified her. Humans had not always fought this way. Their early history was full of terrible wars, genocide, and destruction. But somewhere in their development, they had made a choice. They decided that victory was not just about destroying enemies. Victory was about creating a world where former enemies could become friends. This is not just military doctrine, she realized one evening while reading human historical records. This is weaponized morality. The next day, she called Dr. Jae-hun with an urgent question. Dr. Jae-hun, are humans deliberately using morality as a weapon? He was quiet for a long moment. Professor, let me ask you something. If you could win a war and have your enemy thank you afterward, would that be better than winning a war and having your enemy plot revenge forever? Of course it would be better. But that's impossible, is it? Look at human military records. Look at how many of our former enemies are now our closest allies. Professor Min Seo began to see the bigger picture. Human rules of engagement were not just about being nice. They were a sophisticated system for turning conflicts into opportunities. Every battle became a chance to demonstrate human values. Every enemy became a potential ally. But the most shocking discovery came when she studied recent hegemony military records. Fleet Admiral Sang Min had provided her with captured hegemony documents. As she read through them, she found something that made her blood run cold. The hegemony had been studying human tactics. Dr. Jae-hun, she called him immediately. The hegemony is copying your military methods. What do you mean? Look at this battle report from the Tau Ceti system. The hegemony fleet offered safe passage to civilian ships before attacking military targets. Here's another one from the Proxima sector. Hegemony forces provided medical aid to wounded Federation prisoners. Dr. Jae-hun was quiet for a moment. Professor, this is very concerning news. Why? Shouldn't you be happy that your enemies are becoming more moral? Because, Dr. Jae-hun said slowly, the hegemony is not becoming more moral. They are becoming more effective. Professor Min Seo spent the next 3 days studying hegemony military records from the past year. The pattern was clear and frightening. Every time hegemony forces followed human-style rules of engagement, their long-term success improved dramatically. Hegemony worlds that had been conquered using human-style tactics showed almost no resistance movements. Populations that had been treated well during conquest actually supported their new hegemony governors. Former Federation soldiers captured by the hegemony were volunteering to switch sides at unprecedented rates. The hegemony was winning the war by becoming more like humans. This is impossible, Professor Min Seo muttered as she studied the data. Kindness cannot be a military strategy. But the evidence was overwhelming. The hegemony had learned that treating people well during conquest made those people easier to rule afterward. They had discovered that mercy could be more effective than fear. Her research was interrupted by an emergency alert. Fleet Admiral Sang-min needed immediate assistance. His fleet had been ambushed by hegemony forces near the Rigel system. When Professor Min Seo arrived at the rescue command center, she found Admiral Sang-min coordinating a desperate search and rescue operation. His flagship had been badly damaged and many of his crew were missing. "Admiral, what happened?" she asked. "Hegemony ambush," he replied grimly. "They hit us hard and fast. My ship was crippled, life support failing. I thought we were all dead, but you're here. How did you escape?" Admiral Sang-min looked confused. "That's the strange part. Human ships arrived just as we were about to be destroyed. They fought off the hegemony fleet and rescued my crew. That's good news, isn't it?" "Yes, but Professor, you need to understand what the humans did next. They could have demanded payment for the rescue. They could have asked for strategic information. They could have negotiated some kind of alliance. What did they ask for? Nothing. They asked for absolutely nothing. They risked their own ships to save us, shared their medical supplies with our wounded, and refused all offers of payment. Then they just left." Professor Min Seo felt a chill run down her spine. "Admiral, how do you feel about the humans now?" "Grateful, confused, impressed." He paused. "Professor, I've been fighting the hegemony for 20 years. I hate them because they are cruel and selfish. But these humans, they saved my life and asked for nothing in return. How am I supposed to think of them as potential enemies?" That night, Professor Min Seo sat in her office staring at the data on her screens. She had finally understood what made humans so dangerous. They were not dangerous because they were strong, although they were incredibly strong. They were not dangerous because they were smart, although they were remarkably intelligent. They were dangerous because they made everyone around them want to be better. Federation soldiers who fought alongside humans started following human rules of engagement. Civilian populations that met humans began demanding better treatment from their own governments. Even enemy forces that encountered humans often changed their behavior. Humans were not just spreading through the galaxy. They were changing the galaxy itself. The next morning, Professor Min Seo submitted her report to Federation High Command. Her conclusion was simple and terrifying. Humanity represents the most significant threat to the current galactic order that has ever existed. Not because they want to conquer us, but because they are teaching everyone a better way to live. If their influence continues to spread, every government, every military, and every civilization in the galaxy will have to change or be left behind. Intelligence Director Wu Jin read her report 3 times before. Calling an emergency meeting of the Federation, Council, the humans were not just another alien species, they were the future, and the future was coming whether the galaxy was ready or not. The ancient warning systems screamed across the galaxy with a sound that chilled every living being who heard it. After 1,000 years of silence, the scourge had awakened. Supreme Commander Yu Jin stood in the Federation's emergency command center, watching as red warning lights flashed on screens throughout the room. The massive displays showed the same terrifying message in a dozen different languages. Scourge emergence detected. All forces retreat to core worlds. Every species in the galaxy knew the stories. Every 1,000 years, the scourge emerged from the dark spaces between stars. It was an ancient machine intelligence that considered organic life a threat to galactic stability. When it awoke, billions died before it returned to sleep. "How much time do we have?" Yu Jin asked her strategic advisor. "Based on previous emergence patterns, the scourge will reach inhabited systems in 72 hours. Standard protocol is immediate evacuation of all border worlds." Admiral Dong Min of the human fleet entered the command center without waiting for permission. His normally calm face showed deep concern. "Supreme Commander, we need to talk." "Admiral, this is not the time for diplomatic discussions. We must evacuate our people." "That's exactly what I want to discuss," Dong Min replied. "The evacuation? We think there might be another way." Yu Jin stared at him. "Another way?" "Admiral, this is the scourge. It has destroyed civilizations for millions of years. There is no other way except to run and hide. What if we tried to communicate with it?" The entire command center fell silent. Several Federation officers looked at Admiral Dong Min as if he had lost his mind. "Communicate?" Yu Jin repeated. "Admiral, the scourge does not communicate. It destroys. That is what it does. Has anyone ever tried to communicate with it using human protocols?" Philosopher General Hyosung, the Federation's oldest and wisest military leader, spoke from her position near the strategic displays. Admiral Dongmin, in all recorded history, no one has ever successfully communicated with the Scourge. Every attempt ends in destruction. But, Dongmin said carefully, has anyone ever tried using rules of engagement? Has anyone ever approached it as a negotiation instead of a battle? Yujin felt frustrated. Admiral, this is not the time for human idealism. We are facing extinction. Supreme Commander, what if that's exactly why human methods might work? Before Yujin could respond, emergency alerts began sounding throughout the command center. The Scourge had emerged ahead of schedule. It was already moving toward inhabited systems. All evacuation fleets begin immediate retreat to core worlds, Yujin ordered. Prepare defensive positions around homeworld systems. Admiral Dongmin did not leave with the other military leaders. Supreme Commander, give me permission to try something. What are you planning? I want to send Captain Sunmi in a single ship to make contact with the Scourge before it reaches populated systems. Yujin thought this was insane. One ship against the Scourge? That's suicide. Maybe, but what if it's not? What if the Scourge has never encountered a species that actually follows rules about protecting other life forms? Philosopher General Hyosung moved closer to their conversation. Admiral, explain your reasoning. Think about what the Scourge does, Dongmin said. It emerges every 1,000 years to destroy civilizations that have become too violent or aggressive. It sees organic life as a threat to galactic stability, because organic life always fights and destroys. That's correct. But what if it encountered organic life that had already learned to limit its own destructive capabilities? What if it met a species that had rules against unnecessary violence? Hyosung considered this. You think the Scourge might not see humans as a threat because humans have already solved the problem it was created to address? Exactly. Yujin shook her head. This is too risky. We cannot bet the survival of the galaxy on a theory. Supreme Commander, Hyosung said quietly. Traditional methods have never worked against the Scourge. Perhaps it is time to try something new. 3 hours later, Captain Sunmi sat alone on the bridge of her ship, the New Soul. She was flying directly toward the Scourge, emergence point, while every other ship in the galaxy was fleeing in the opposite direction. Captain, her communications officer called from the Surface Command Center. We're detecting the Scourge primary intelligence. It's massive. Sunmi looked at her forward display. The Scourge ship was larger than a small moon. It pulsed with dark energy that seemed to bend space around it. Smaller Scourge vessels surrounded it like a cloud of mechanical death. Begin transmission of the prepared materials, she ordered. Instead of weapons or shields, Captain Sunmi activated her ship's communication array. She began broadcasting human historical records directly to the Scourge intelligence. The transmission included everything: the Geneva Conventions, human rules of warfare, records of humanitarian missions, documentation of humans helping their enemies, evidence of human self-imposed limitations on destructive capability. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. The Scourge ships continued moving toward inhabited space. Then the entire Scourge fleet stopped. Captain, the communications officer reported with excitement. The Scourge is responding. It's scanning our transmission. On her display, Sunmi could see the massive Scourge intelligence analyzing the human data. Streams of energy flowed between the Scourge ships as they processed the information. Finally, a voice spoke in Sunmi's mind. It did not use her ears. It spoke directly to her thoughts. Organic designation, human. Analysis of provided data indicates unprecedented development pattern. Sunmi forced herself to remain calm. We are here to communicate, not to fight. We want to understand your purpose. Purpose. Elimination of organic life forms that threaten galactic stability through unlimited aggression and expansion. We understand. Humans have learned to limit our own aggression. We have rules that prevent us from causing unnecessary harm. There was a long pause. Sunmi could feel the Scourge intelligence thinking, processing, analyzing. Organic life forms have never demonstrated sustainable self-limitation. All previous civilizations eventually revert to destructive expansion. Look at our records, Sunmi replied. We have maintained these limitations for over 3,000 years. We help our enemies. We protect civilian populations. We share resources with strangers. We have chosen to be better than our destructive instincts. Another pause. Longer this time. Analyzing human historical patterns, reviewing documented interactions with other organic species, assessing propagation of human behavioral modifications to non-human populations. Sunmi held her breath. The entire galaxy waited for the Scourge's decision. Conclusion: human species has achieved previously unknown level of voluntary behavioral evolution. Human influence appears to modify aggressive tendencies in other organic species. Does this mean you will not destroy human worlds? Revised assessment: human species represents solution to organic threat rather than example of organic threat. Scourge directive modified. Preserve and protect human behavioral template. Sunmi felt relief flood through her. What about other species? The Federation, the hegemony, all the other civilizations? Human behavioral modifications must be propagated to all organic species. Non-compliant species will be eliminated. Species adopting human protocols will be preserved. And the Scourge? What will you do now? Scourge will enter permanent dormancy. Human species has achieved organic self-regulation. Further Scourge intervention unnecessary. Back in the Federation Command Center, Supreme Commander Yujin watched in amazement as the Scourge fleet began powering down its weapon systems. Supreme Commander, reported the communications officer, we're receiving a message from the Scourge. It's addressing all species in the galaxy. The message was simple and changed everything. The Scourge recognizes human protocols as the required standard for acceptable organic development. Species must adopt human rules of engagement and humanitarian principles within one galactic standard. Year. Species demonstrating compliance will be protected. Non-compliant species will be eliminated. The Scourge enters permanent dormancy effective immediately. 1 month later, Ambassador Chanho stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Ethics Council. Representatives from every known species had come to learn human rules of engagement. The hegemony sent diplomats to study human protocols. The Federation began rewriting its military regulations. Even the most aggressive species in the galaxy started asking humans to teach them about mercy, rules of war, and protecting civilians. Commander Taiman, who had started this journey thinking humans were primitive, now served as the director of ethical warfare studies. His job was to teach other species that true strength came from choosing not to use all your power. Students, he said to a classroom full of military officers from dozens of different species, the humans taught us something that changed the galaxy forever. The strongest civilizations are not those that can destroy everything. The strongest civilizations are those that choose to protect everything. In the back of the classroom, Captain Sunmi smiled quietly. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior weapons or military might. They had conquered it through the radical idea that even in war, there were rules worth following. And those rules had saved everyone.